When it's a war, you know.
That's Boozy speaking on street tension, and this time the spotlight is locked on Yo Gotti and Key Glock. The pressure between both sides is heating up again after new photos of Glock standing at Big Jook's grave started spreading all over the internet in April 2026. After staying quiet for years, Gotti finally had something to say, and people instantly started connecting the dots. The clip everybody keeps replaying is short, but it hit hard. It shows Key Glock standing at Big Jook's gravesite. No crew around him, no long speech, no big moment, just Glock, the headstone, and the camera rolling. The photos popped up right before April 22nd, 2026, and reaction pages went wild, pulling in massive views in just days, while everybody tried to break down what it really meant. To understand why this moment shook social media, you have to know the history behind it. Key Glock, born Markevius Cathy, signed to Paper Route Empire back in 2017 and built his name beside young Dolph as family and close business partner. Big Jook, known as Anthony Mims and Yo Gotti's older brother, has also been tied to serious claims mentioned during court proceedings connected to the young Dolph case. Court testimony in the same case painted an even darker picture. Prosecutors described a hit list where young Dolph was allegedly valued at $100,000, while Key Glock's name was reportedly tied to $50,000. That changes how people saw that photo instantly. The image wasn't just a man visiting a grave, it was Dolph's surviving cousin, who was also mentioned in that same alleged plot, standing at the burial site of the man accused in court of being connected to it all. That's why the clip carried so much weight. That's also why it didn't need words or a caption. The picture spoke loud on its own. Soon after, Yo Gotti responded, and people paid attention fast. For years, Gotti stayed mostly silent through the fallout from the Dolph trial, through Big Jook's 2024 passing outside Perignons, and through non-stop online rumors and debates. But in April 2026, that silence cracked. According to reaction channels, Gotti's statement came off as emotional but controlled, centered on one clear point. A gravesite should not be used as part of somebody else's story or message. It wasn't loud or wild, but it was sharp and personal, and that calm tone made it hit even harder. Gotti, the face behind Collective Music Group and the man connected to stars like Moneybagg Yo, ESTG, and Glorilla, usually stays behind the scenes handling business while others speak through music. That's been his pattern for years, so when he broke that silence in April 2026, fans saw it as a major shift. To many, it meant Key Glock's grave visit touched a nerve deeper than any rap exchange ever could. The reaction split fast. Paper Route supporters called it a bold move, saying Glock was facing old pain head on, standing right there with history staring back at him. The CMG side saw it completely different. To them, Glock standing there looked like he was provoking someone who could no longer respond, and they called it a dangerous move in a feud that had already brought way too much pain. From there, both sides parked themselves in the comments, talking heavy, and nobody was backing down. Boozy Badaz had already spoken before April 2026 about how heavy Big Jook's passing felt, and that makes this whole grave moment hit even harder.
I had just talked to Jook probably about 3 weeks before that. He was hollering at some guys wanted to feature in California.
That personal bond is exactly what gets turned into a weapon when a rival pulls up to the burial site. To CMG supporters, Big Jook is not just a name in legal paperwork. He is somebody's brother, somebody's family, somebody whose old voicemails may still be saved in phones.
And I don't know, man. I just shook my head, man. You know, I thought about Gotti, you know.
That is the emotional place Gotti's response came from. To his side, the grave visit looked like an old wound being opened right in front of the camera. But to Glock's side, it looked like a survivor refusing to act like the past never happened. Both views were fighting for space in the same comment sections and neither side was giving an inch. To really understand why one trip to a gravesite shook the internet this hard in 2026, we have to go back to the deal Dolph turned down in 2014. That one rejected offer helped spark years of tension, threats, violence, losses, and unanswered questions across Memphis. The story starts with one meeting that did not go Yo Gotti's way. Back in 2014, Yo Gotti reportedly made a move to bring young Dolph, Adolph Thornton Jr., over to CMG. On paper, it looked like a big opportunity, but Dolph turned it down without hesitation. At that point, Dolph had already been building Paper Route Empire from the ground up, moving mixtapes out the trunk, and creating his own lane. Signing under another Memphis rapper didn't fit the vision. To Dolph, that looked like taking a lower seat when he was trying to build his own table. That decision became the spark for everything that followed. From Gotti's point of view, it was a respected Memphis figure extending an offer that got rejected. From Dolph's side, staying independent was the mission from day one. Both men walked away, standing on their own principles, but the city could feel the tension building after that. For a while, it stayed quiet in public, but by 2016, the pressure started showing. Dolph dropped King of Memphis, and that title alone had people talking crazy because many saw it as a challenge to Gotti's standing in the city. Around that same time, CMG affiliate Black Youngsta was appearing in videos around Dolph's South Memphis area, and fans started paying close attention as the energy between both camps got heavier. Then February 2017 changed everything. Dolph dropped the diss track Play With Yo Bitch, and it put Gotti's name front and center while making personal claims tied to his private life. At that point, the tension wasn't about business anymore. It had turned public and personal. Gotti's answer came through Moneybagg Yo's Don't Beef With Me. It never directly named Dolph, but the message was clear enough for fans to connect the dots, and the back and forth was officially wide open. Dolph didn't let the response slide. In a follow-up video, he mocked the situation by using a Gotti lookalike, and fans saw it as straight-up disrespect. At that point, the music wasn't the only thing people were watching anymore. The tension had spilled way beyond the booth. Then things took a serious turn. On February 25th, 2017, young Dolph's armored SUV was hit by more than 100 rounds in Charlotte, North Carolina. Somehow, Dolph survived without injuries and still showed up to perform later that night. That survival instantly became one of the biggest talking points in hip-hop, and the story spread fast. Investigators connected a van linked to Black Youngsta to the scene, which pushed even more attention onto the case. Charges against Youngsta and others were later dropped, but by then the damage to the public image of the feud was already done. People stopped looking at this as just rap competition when it had become something much deeper and more serious. Later that same year, in September 2017, Dolph was shot multiple times outside a Lowe's parking lot in Los Angeles. Yo Gotti was staying at the same hotel at the time and was questioned as part of the investigation before being cleared. Another associate was later arrested in connection to the incident. Dolph turned those painful moments into music, dropping Bulletproof and 100 Shots, making his survival part of his story and his message. That's also when Key Glock stepped into the picture in a bigger way. He signed to Paper Route Empire in 2017, staying low-key in public but standing solid beside Dolph as family, mentor, and business partner. That bond would later explain why Glock's actions carried so much weight. This is where Boozie's words about street code started making more sense than ever, because by 2017 this wasn't regular rap drama anymore. The energy had changed, and everybody watching could feel it.
When it's up, it's stuck. It's just how they go.
What started as music, pride, and business had turned into something way heavier. That one line from Boozy sums up the corner both sides found themselves in after February 2017. Once over 100 shots were fired into that truck, there was no easy way to move past it. The tension had crossed into serious territory, and every move after that carried more weight than before. The biggest questions from that era still hang in the air. Later court documents pointed to a mix of label competition and street politics colliding at the same time. But when it came to the 2017 incidents, no one from CMG was convicted, leaving people with more questions than answers. Dolph kept pushing forward after everything. He kept dropping music, kept giving back to Memphis with his Thanksgiving turkey drives, and kept building Paper Route Empire like a family business, with Key Glock playing a major role in that growth. For the next 4 years after the Los Angeles incident, Dolph built a reputation as one of rap's toughest comeback stories. Every project, every song, every appearance reminded people he was still here and still pushing forward. That's why what happened on November 17, 2021 hit so hard. By then, a lot of people believed Dolph was untouchable. After surviving so much, his image had grown larger than life, and many thought nothing could stop him. But that belief was about to be tested in the hardest way possible. To understand how the tension from 2017 led into a major federal trial in 2024, and why Big Jook's name later became part of that courtroom story, you have to look at what happened that day at Makita's Cookies, and what prosecutors later revealed. On November 17, 2021, young Dolph went to Makita's Cookies in Memphis, reportedly picking up cookies for his mother. He was attacked there in broad daylight and did not make it out alive. The news shook the city and the rap world because this was the same man who had made it through the Charlotte incident and the Los Angeles ambush years earlier, but this time there was no way out. In the months that followed, arrests were made. Justin Johnson, known as Straight Drop, and Cornelius Smith were formally charged in connection with the incident. Then the 2024 trial brought even more attention, becoming one of the most talked about courtroom cases tied to hip-hop in recent years. Prosecutors didn't stop at focusing on the people accused of carrying it out. They also laid out claims about who they believed helped fund the plot, making the case even more explosive. According to coverage from the trial, Cornelius Smith testified that Big Jook had paid him to carry out the attack on young Dolph. Prosecutors said the alleged amount tied to the plot was $100,000, and that claim instantly became one of the most talked about parts of the case. Smith's testimony included details that stunned people watching, including the claim that those involved allegedly FaceTimed Big Jook from the scene to confirm everything was finished. That detail alone made headlines everywhere because of how intense it sounded. Justin Johnson's alleged role in the case added another layer to the story. Trial coverage described him as an artist chasing a bigger break in music, and prosecutors claimed Big Jook had allegedly offered not just money, but also the possibility of a CMG deal. That painted a powerful picture in court, the idea that ambition, money, and loyalty could all collide in one dangerous plan. Then came the part that made Key Glock's grave visit in 2026 hit even harder: the alleged hit list. Reports on the trial described a list that spread online, including coverage from DJ Academics, showing young Dolph allegedly listed at $100,000 and Key Glock at $50,000, with other paper route names reportedly included too. That's the same detail that changed how many fans looked at Glock standing at Big Jook's grave. It wasn't just symbolic anymore, it felt deeply personal. For Key Glock, this wasn't only about losing family. Based on those trial claims, his own name was allegedly part of that same violent plan. Same paperwork, different number, but the same danger hanging over it. Justin Johnson was later convicted and sentenced to life. Other defendants continued through their own legal timelines, but Big Jook, the name prosecutors repeatedly pointed to as the alleged paymaster, was never in court because he had already died before the trial began. Anthony Big Jook Mims was 47 years old when his life was cut short on January 13, 2024, outside Perignon's restaurant and event center in Memphis. Earlier that day, he had attended a repast for a family friend. As he was leaving the location, multiple rounds rang out, and investigators later reviewed surveillance footage showing a white Ford Explorer speeding away from the scene. His passing sent shockwaves through Memphis because Big Jook wasn't just Yo Gotti's older brother. He was seen by many as one of the key behind-the-scenes forces helping push CMG forward, handling artist development, business moves, and major connections. One detail fans kept circling back to was his final Instagram post. Before leaving Perignon's, Big Jook had posted a message about snakes and staying alert, and after his passing, many people started viewing that post in a completely different light. It added another layer of mystery that had social media going wild. To this day, the case remains unsolved. No arrests have been announced, and a $40,000 reward is still being offered for information. That means whoever carried out the attack has not been publicly identified, and the questions keep piling up.
I'm gonna come pay you rent if y'all got somewhere to stay. I'll pay your car note.
To understand Big Jook's role inside CMG, many fans point back to his old Instagram live videos. In those clips, he could be seen actively promoting artists, making deals sound real, and showing the label's willingness to invest when other companies were slowing down.
I'll pay your jewelry note so you won't get repoed. You feel me? Whatever else you renting or leasing, I'm gonna pay that. But when this break back over, I want 10%.
That confident, business-heavy energy is the version of Big Jook many people remember, but when you place that image next to the trial testimony, the contrast becomes impossible to ignore. To supporters, he was helping build careers. To prosecutors, he was connected to much darker claims. Same man, two completely different stories depending on who you ask. That's what made Big Jook's passing and everything connected to it so divisive. Key Glock's reaction after Big Jook's passing in 2024 set the tone for everything that followed. During an IG Live, Glock spoke on it directly. He brought up the loss of his cousin and made it clear he wasn't about to offer sympathy to someone who had been named in trial testimony as connected to the alleged plot. That moment told everybody exactly where he stood, loud and clear. It was cold, calculated, and impossible to ignore. That IG Live became a major piece of the bigger story because it showed the emotions were still fresh and the lines were already drawn. By the time Glock showed up at Big Jook's grave in April 2026, many people connected it right back to that earlier live and saw it as another chapter in the same public tension. The internet didn't take its time reacting to the grave visit. It exploded fast. Reaction channels on YouTube broke it down from every angle, with some videos pulling huge numbers in just days. TikTok and Instagram pushed the clips even harder, and once the algorithm caught it, the debate was everywhere. Paper Route supporters stood behind Glock and called the move bold. Their view was simple. According to trial testimony, Glock's own name was allegedly tied to that same dangerous plot. He had already lost his cousin and mentor at Makita's Cookies, and now he was standing face to face with the grave of the man prosecutors claimed was tied to the plan. To them, that wasn't random. It was personal. To Key Glock's supporters, the grave visit wasn't disrespect at all. They saw it as a survivor standing on his truth and refusing to show sympathy for someone he believed was connected to the danger surrounding him and his family. That's how they framed it, and social media ran with that angle fast. Memes brought the "Long Live Dolph" message right back into the spotlight, and the comment sections turned into a non-stop war of opinions. People were saying Glock had either made a dangerous move or showed he feared nobody. There was almost no in-between, but on the CMG side, the view was completely different. To them, that visit crossed a serious line. They called it reckless, immature, and disrespectful to the family left behind. Their argument was simple. No matter what people believed about Big Jook's life, his gravesite belonged to his loved ones, and using that space as part of an ongoing feud was something they felt should never happen. The comment sections turned into pure chaos. CMG supporters flooded posts with loyalty messages, while others accused Glock of chasing attention off a man's legacy and name. On the other side, Dolph supporters fired back with LLD and kept his memory front and center. The back and forth kept growing in real time, with every new post adding more heat. What made Yo Gotti's response hit so hard was his silence before all this. Through the 2024 trial, through the still unsolved case involving Big Jook, and through years of online talk, Gotti stayed quiet and let others carry the conversation. But in April 2026, that changed. According to reaction breakdowns, his response was less about attacking Glock and more about protecting his brother's name, legacy, and resting place. Yo Gotti's decision not to call out Key Glock by name was a move that stood out. It kept him from turning the situation into a direct back and forth while still making it clear the grave visit got his attention. That kind of response fit Gotti's image. Calculated, controlled, and business-minded. He didn't jump into public trading words, but the message still landed loud. Key Glock's side of the story carries a different kind of weight because of everything he's already been through. Long before April 2026, his career had been shaped by public loss and painful moments tied to Dolph's passing. Some of his most talked about comments after Dolph passed were about people asking if he was okay, and his message was clear. The pain was obvious and there was no easy way around it. That honesty about grief stayed with fans. That's why, to his supporters, Glock showing up at Big Jook's grave didn't look like a new attack. It looked like part of the same emotional story he's been carrying for years. The loss never left, and neither did the questions surrounding it. Then the Protect Key Glock movement started picking up online, and it came straight from what fans connected in the trial record. Once people linked the grave visit to testimony about the alleged $50,000 hit tied to his name, the whole moment looked different. To many supporters, it wasn't just provocation. It looked like a man standing in the same shadow people once claimed was hanging over him. That's why, overnight, Glock became an even bigger symbol of survival, pain, and pressure for the Paper Route side.
When it's a wall, you know?
That's where both sides keep landing, even when they completely disagree on how it all started. The divide isn't about whether the tension is real, it's about what the actions mean. Same situation, totally different meanings depending on who's looking at it. The CMG side sees it as a warning about the path Key Glock is choosing and the risks that come with it. But the Paper Route side sees the exact same moves as proof that Glock is standing on the code he believes in and refusing to fold. Same message, two completely different battle cries. Big Jook's old IG live clips started circulating again in the middle of all this because they showed him in his most public form, laughing, making business moves, promoting artists, and showing confidence.
So whoever trying to save their career, man. Need to shoot some videos while the label budgets is cut off.
Those clips became part of the online debate too. To CMG supporters, it was proof of Big Jook's role as a key piece of the operation. To Paper Route supporters, that same footage fed into bigger conversations about how CMG moved during that era. Same video, two totally different judgments.
Labels, they cut off right now. No budgets, no money. We still open. CMG still open. Budgets never close. You feel me?
The deeper conversation underneath all of this is grief, and that's a big reason the story spread far beyond rap fans. This wasn't just about music anymore. It tapped into bigger feelings, the loyalty to people who are gone, carrying pain in public, and the way loss can shape how people move for years. Even people who never listened to a Paper Route mixtape found themselves pulled into the story because those emotions are universal. What made the moment go viral was how it seemed to connect so many major events into one single image. The 2021 loss of Dolph, Big Jook's still unsolved 2024 passing, and the intense tension from 2017 all came together in one photo of Key Glock standing at that gravesite. One picture carried years of history, pain, and unanswered questions, and that's why it hit so hard online. But to be fair, it's important to separate what actually happened from what the internet turned it into. The reality is simpler than some of the headlines made it seem. There were photos and short clips of Key Glock at Big Jook's gravesite, and there was Yo Gotti's public response afterward. That's what exists. The heat came from the meaning people attached to it, not from any direct confrontation. That distinction matters a lot. There was no face-to-face meeting, no public run-in, and no direct clash between Gotti and Glock. If that had happened, the situation would carry a completely different level of risk and consequences. Instead, what happened was a quieter but sharper form of communication. Glock's visit was a statement made without words, and the photos spreading without a caption only made the message feel even louder. Yo Gotti's response was controlled, emotional, and strategic. He treated Key Glock's grave visit as a public message and answered it the same way, publicly, but without calling Glock out by name and without making threats. That's what made it stand out. Two men sending messages, both loud in meaning but never face to face. Across reaction channels and breakdown videos, there still isn't one major quote from Gotti's response that people keep repeating. Instead, what spread was the tone of it. Most descriptions painted it as protective, emotional, and centered on Big Jook's memory and resting place, rather than attacking Glock directly. That approach made the message stronger because it kept the focus on family and legacy instead of turning into another public fight. Some reaction pages said Gotti's response put the entire story back in the spotlight, and that's probably the clearest way to describe it. He didn't need a viral punchline or a shocking statement. The fact that he broke his silence at all was the real headline. That alone told people how serious he viewed the moment. What this whole situation represents is years of tension between CMG and Paper Route Empire packed into one photo and one response. The reported 2014 deal Dolph turned down, the King of Memphis title in 2016 that raised eyebrows, the 2017 diss track that made things personal, the Charlotte attack, the Los Angeles ambush, Dolph's tragic loss at Makita's Cookies in 2021, the 2024 trial testimony that brought Big Jook's name into court, the alleged hit list tied to Key Glock, Big Jook's own unresolved 2024 case. All of that history sits inside that gravesite photo, and all of it sits inside Gotti's response too. A whole decade of history got packed into one single moment. That's the real reason the footage spread so fast. It wasn't because people misunderstood it. It was because the symbolism was impossible to ignore. In just a few seconds, that image pulled together years of tension, loss, and public drama into something even casual viewers could feel right away. You didn't need to study court records to understand why the surviving cousin of someone lost to violence standing at the grave of a person accused in court of helping set it up would shake people up. And on the other side, you didn't need a full timeline to understand why Yo Gotti, as Big Jook's brother, would feel the need to respond. The image spoke for itself, and it spoke loud. That's why Boosie's words about street conflict kept coming back into the conversation, because they captured the emotional weight behind all of it.
And I don't know, man. I just shook my head, man. I thought about Gotti,
At the center of this story is family pain on both sides. Big Jook's passing is still a deep wound for his family, and Dolph's loss remains just as heavy for his. That's what makes this so complicated. Neither side has moved on, and neither side seems ready to let go. When pride and family are tied together, emotion stays strong and memories stay fresh. What the April 2026 footage really shows is not a direct confrontation, but two different acts of remembrance happening in parallel. One side sees a visit to sacred ground as a statement, the other sees defending that ground as standing up for family. How you view it depends on which side of the loss you connect with first. The footage leaves that choice to the audience. A lot of the biggest questions in this story still have no clear answers. The person responsible for Big Jook's passing still hasn't been caught, and that $40,000 reward is still on the table. The alleged hit list that surfaced during the 2024 trial, with Key Glock's name reportedly tied to $50,000, remains one of the most talked about parts of the case. And while some legal chapters have closed, other proceedings are still moving forward. Yo Gotti has never been charged in connection to any of these events, and that fact has remained the same through every turn in this story. But outside the courtroom, the public keeps its own score, and that's the tension Boozy was talking about when he spoke on Street War. The April 2026 grave footage didn't close this chapter. It reminded everyone that the emotions, the losses, and the questions are still alive. Memphis remembers, the internet remembers, and as long as both sides keep moving, people will keep watching. If you made it this far, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with somebody following the story. And drop your thoughts in the comments. Was Glock's visit a statement or did it cross the line?